If I don't program after a week, I get depressed.
That's really nice.
I frequently work on code older than my oldest kids, so
It works. Why it should be changed?
legacy maintenance is like insurance.
Hi, good evening, good morning, afternoon, whom how. So my name is Kyrylo. I'm CTO at Uspacey, and today we are recording the next episode of Fwdays Global. I'm here in the studio, in the virtual one, and with me my co-host Ina, and also our guest Anna.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see you. And nice to see you, Anna.
Yep, hi, thanks for having me.
Anna, could you please tell a bit about yourself, about your career, about your passion, about everything that you'd like to share with us?
Hi, yeah, so my name is Anna. That's a lot of questions that I could spend a few hours discussing. But in short, I mostly identify as a developer, an architect. I used to organize a conference at some point. I'm somewhat involved in the PHP community. Yeah, my passion is programming. If I don't program after a week, I get depressed. So that's my passion.
I have the same feeling because I'm just was promoted also currently occupied solution architect role. So yeah, I feel your pain when I don't have time to spend some time coding. That's really like I don't know, like something is really important missing. Oh yeah, that's
Yeah, absolutely. Fully agree here. Not a lot of time is left for us to write code, but it's great to have it.
But I do like teaching also. So that's another thing that if I don't do after a while, if I don't mentor, if I don't present somewhere, um, teach people about some topic, I also feel unhappy.
so maybe we can start with such part of questions related to mentoring, especially juniors. And could you please share with us like the main principles that you applied for mentoring juniors or teaching the newcomers or probably new engineers?
Sure. So the way I approach it, first of all, is I don't like giving people pointless tasks. I just like to give them something that's challenging enough and get them to participate in the project, right? So they have to participate.
Okay.
Although I can precede it with a period of just orientation, explaining concepts, showing things, maybe for a few weeks, and then we can start coding something. And I always approach it with the idea that people can understand everything, and that they will learn. They will make mistakes, and that's fine. And a lot of them can still are probably not big enough that we need to like not merge their code. I also like to think of mentorship as something that goes two ways because, well, I mean, I mostly mentor adults, right? So they have some kind of experience, and that experience is just different from the experience that I have, but they can bring something to the table. They can correct me, and they can ask questions that are actually very interesting and make me reconsider certain things. So I've absolutely learned from every person that I have mentored.
Do you check when, for example, a newcomer join your team? Do you do something like base or basic or common knowledge check, something related to computer science? Or do you ask questions like, do you know algorithms and data structures? What do you know about, I don't know, OOP principles or functional programming principles and so on? Or do you actually focusing on such stuff or when you are mentoring juniors?
Well, I mean, it is important to, for example, data structures or databases. There are many concepts where I will absolutely address them. I don't test people if that's the question. I don't. I don't try to verify where they're at with their knowledge, because
Mm-hmm.
learning is not linear. So they might know something in one topic but not much in another, or they might know a topic because they've played with something, or they've built even something, but they don't necessarily understand all the underlying like theory. That they don't necessarily have the theoretical foundation. And so we just address it as we go. So I like to improvise with that, and we just, if I see that a person, based on maybe the code they've done or the way they're reasoning, that there are some gaps in their theoretical knowledge, yeah, we will address it. And because I've mentored people who don't actually have a formal education, I've mentored all kinds of people at all kinds of levels. Sometimes they were entry level, sometimes they were. You can absolutely mentor a senior developer as well, right? So
Yeah, right. That's correct.
yeah.
Yeah, talking about the differences and different people, could you say that mentoring differs from country to country, from continent to continent? For instance, like Europe, America, Ukraine. Does the mindset, the culture difference make some changes?
I didn't mentor really that many people to have like a statistic in my brain. But one thing for sure, and the only criteria for mentorship, is the person needs to be interested in being mentored.
Of
It's not
course.
something you can sort of impose on someone. If they reach out and they ask you about it, then absolutely they want to be mentored. But if they're not really open to that, and you kind of convince them, you pressure them into it, then that will most of the time just won't work. So, and also there's a difference in the intent, right? So I had someone who said to someone else that they would like to learn from me. That's not the same as reaching out and say, "Hey, I would like to learn from you," or "Could you point me to other places where I can learn?" And that shows me that the person is interested in actually being mentored, right? So that's a once that criteria is satisfied, I would say there hasn't been a difference really. It's just a question of, are they willing to follow that sort of mentorship? Because mentorship is, for me at least, it's different from the kind of just the normal learning you will have in the workplace, right? Where you just interact with people. I mean, you can call that mentorship, but for me, mentorship is a bit like, in Star Wars, you have the Padawans. It's more like for a certain period, that person will follow me in the projects that I do, and we'll work on things together, and I will expose them to new and challenging situations, and not just necessarily coding, but like the process of how do you get your code reviewed, how do you respond to criticism in code review, how you work with a variety of tools, occasionally even how would you contribute to open source, because some people have asked me. So yeah, I just as I said, I improvise a lot. I just follow my gut feeling, and I see what's the next thing the person wants to learn. But coming up with big plans for mentorship,
Mm-hmm.
I think also doesn't necessarily work, because like you got to be agile basically, even in
Mm-hmm.
mentorship, and just
Yeah,
adapt
true.
to whatever comes your way.
And as you just mentioned open source, so we can ask question related to it. How actually companies can combine mentoring with supporting open source? And do you have such practice?
I'll be honest, I tried. It's
Mm-hmm.
extremely hard to get companies to be interested in
Mm-hmm.
open source. And maybe the kinds of companies I work for, maybe that wasn't a good match. And I've mostly been a solo developer, so also I don't necessarily, I haven't worked in that many companies. But where I tried, it didn't really get a lot of traction, because the priority is almost never there, right? I mean, it's hard enough convincing people to write documentation and tooling and tests, and just have a pipeline. Imagine you tell them, hey, let's get your folks to contribute to open source. So I'm sure there are many companies out there who proactively want to do that. I just don't really know what examples to give them because I don't have such experience, at least not firsthand experience. But what I've tried with some people individually is show them opportunities, like find good tickets for them and say, hey, maybe you can do this. Right? And after maybe having mentored them for a while, I get a better feel for what kind of things will they find interesting and what's appropriate for their skill level at the time. But I honestly haven't had much success in companies to get that. But what I would suspect companies should do, because I mean that's how I've approached it. It's not even necessarily contributing code. One of the most important things to remember is that contributing to open source is not just about code. It's also about writing documentation, writing tooling, and actually most of my contributions have revolved around that. Like I don't think any of my contributions any ever made it to for example, the PHP source code. But I have been around the documentation and tooling, and for other projects also I worked on like maybe some scripts, to generate something or to validate something. So I worked on that, and it's a really great way to mentor people because a company might not have the necessary environment to expose a person to the kind of things they want the person to learn, right? Because maybe the company has a small team. Maybe they want to grow the team, but contributing to open source might allow them to expose even their senior developers, to an environment where they have to quickly understand something. Maybe they want to expose them to an environment where they have to sort of interact with more people and negotiate changes and get maybe a lot more feedback than you would normally get on a smaller team where you can just merge straight to master.
From my personal experience, what I have seen that actually more usually contributed as an open source. So there was mainly like two pieces. First one related to UI design systems. When you have like component libraries and people would like to share it and like they implement it internally, and there's like small modules or small component that can be reused by anyone. So this one I have seen like in several companies that they have such experience, and yeah, most of the front-end team contribute to that open source project. And another one, it was related to backend or service oriented stuff, and it was related to building like small parts of connectors. Under connectors I mean something that you connect from one database to another. Maybe you can do some transformation using CSV files or other types of files. So only such types. That's but maybe I believe there should be a bit more. But that's what I have seen like the most frequently, because some other open source more complex, not really open sourced to be honest.
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm glad you mentioned that because I completely forgot about that aspect because I usually don't start open source projects. It's just too much for me. So I rather we just help a little bit somewhere else. But I've seen companies be quite successful in publishing their own code for other people to use. It is not easy. I mean, you kind of have to publish it as is, and as much as you say it, people are going to open, tickets and pull requests, and you have extra work. So I can understand why some are reticent. But I really envy companies who have managed to create such a good sort of open source culture internally. I should probably study how they've done it.
Yeah, true.
And then I'll be able to give advice.
And as you mentioned, the most complex part of it is to push people to write documentation, because it should be understandable to everyone who would like to reuse it and use it or
And
reuse
tests.
it and contribute. Yeah, true.
Yeah, and tests. And tests.
Nobody likes.
Yeah. What I personally like most, actually, in open source is the developer experience. It's kind of weird. I'm always like in the least like exciting things, I guess. already documentation is not very exciting for most people, but I would like get excited about maybe writing something that will make code reviews easier for a documentation project.
Do you think this is a realistic stuff to build a career working on open source? And if so, who should pay for that?
Is it realistic as of today? I mean, some people have successfully done it, right? Of course, we shouldn't look at like the leaders of the big projects because then we're going to talk about the biases there. So it's not statistically significant. And from what I hear around me, everybody struggles a lot. So I don't want to dissuade people from doing it, right? But it's like when people think about writing a book. I mean, you will most people would not make a lot of money from a book. But it should be we should change the culture. I think we should change the culture around open source, and I'm glad that there are some foundations that exist that can sponsor work. For example, in the PHP world, which I'm most familiar with, for many years now, we've had the PHP Foundation, which basically companies contribute to it and individuals as well, and then they pay people to work on the project. Not necessarily full time, but I mean it's pretty nice to be able to do that. So we should really have more of that. And as much as we keep tell companies that you've made all of your profit on the backs of these people and you should give back, they didn't seem to listen. It's very hard to tell them to do that. I mean, we've been doing that for decades. So and most of them don't listen. So I don't know. We need to keep raising awareness. We need to find new ways for people to be able to finance the work they do. But I do hope that it will, it can eventually change. I know, for example, that like in the video game space, the smaller studios, the independent developers, it seemed impossible 20 years ago, but today, like the some of the best games are actually independent games. So if that's possible, maybe open source is possible too. But I don't know if we should just hope for large corporations to turn around and do the right thing. That's a tall order, I think.
Yeah, but some of them do that, like Netflix, Uber.
Yeah, some of them do. Some of them do. It's just not the majority, I would say.
Big
Yeah.
companies probably has like or trying to build such way, so they support and they appraise open source contributions. So yeah, that's my experience that I mentioned. I've seen it mainly in big companies. So yeah, they probably think a bit differently, not only client oriented, but also like IT culture oriented as well.
Yeah. Well, what I've seen happen though is a lot of large companies, they even if they do donate to open source projects, it's not really such a huge amount of money, not proportional to how much money they're making from it. And sorry if I have a very cynical view of companies in general. But I do appreciate it when they have people actually directly contributing. That's actually a pretty cool thing because, I mean, yeah, money does help, but also just having people who are going to be there for a long time, that's also helpful. So both of these things should be encouraged, and we should continue to raise awareness, I think. Hopefully it's possible, but I don't know if it's viable to make a career out of it, especially if sponsored directly like that. So joining a position in the large company specifically for open source is actually a thing. So that's if I wanted to do open source full time, that's probably where I would go. I don't want to necessarily give advice to other people about it because I don't have such experience.
And about PHP world, because yeah, I'm not really familiar with it because mostly focused on different different topics. If there is like some really popular open source project that anyone can contribute, not anyone, of course, some volunteer that really experience and would like to participate in it, or maybe you have some
there are
experience.
plenty. I don't necessarily want to give one a visibility over another.
Okay, maybe several.
But yeah,
so-
there are plenty. Well, the one where I've been trying to contribute most, or somewhere I've contributed and somewhere I was trying to contribute, but always something gets in the way. I've been contributing to the PHP documentation as much as I can, but occasionally I would go there. I would try to sort through some pull requests that have been stuck for a while and try to push them through the finish line. Other times I would try to work on PHP compatibility, which is a bit niche maybe, but that's kind of where my life is in legacy software. So PHP compatibility is a tool that allows you to scan the code and see what's incompatible. So the code is in the current state and you want to move it to this version of the language. What's incompatible is going to give you a list. Not a full list, of course, but a pretty good start. And I know for a fact this project is looking for more contributors at the moment.
So we can switch to a bit different topics. And you call yourself as a legacy archeologist. Just don't know how to pronounce it correctly. How do you explain this role to the new client?
So a legacy archaeology, I don't necessarily use that term with that. It's just a thing I put on social media, not mostly. But that's how I view myself, because what I do is I dig through old code, but also old runtime environments, because let's say there's an application that runs on the server. Nobody knows how the server is configured, which is also requires a lot of digging, and nobody likes to do that, right? So some tools like I just mentioned, PHP compatibility is available, but there's just so much to it, and you kind of have to immerse yourself in it and learn a lot about all the history of things and why is this thing like that and what's the best way forward. So yeah, just unearthing a lot of interesting artifacts, I guess. So I kind of saw the parallel there. But more concretely, what I do for customers is I would take an application that's outdated and likely people contact me because they didn't pass a security audit. So they really need to get it to the latest version. I will look at the state of things. I will give them a strategy, and sometimes I will help them implement that strategy, which there's a lot of variety there, and I have entire talks dedicated to that.
I saw last year some statistic that there is like 80% of website that actually hosted using PHP on servers. So that's really saying
that's a lot. That's a lot. The number of them that are severely outdated is not that high, but there's absolutely no shortage of companies reaching out to me and saying that they need their application updated. And those are some of the bigger applications. We're talking like large companies, that run some of the critical infrastructure, let's say in the country, or like even governments, they have a lot of applications there that need moved. So yeah, there's and even just the normal companies you would think of, they have a lot of outdated stuff out there. And so not all, and it's actually not all of it is publicly available. And that kind of, I think, is what's given people an excuse to not upgrade things for a long time. You're like, oh, it's not public facing. Yeah, but still you're ingesting this data and it's vulnerable to this and that. So security is like a combination of things, right? It's like you need several walls, you need several lines of defenses. You can't just have one thing. It's like, oh yeah, I put a password on my database, so it's secure. Like you need layers, right? You're joking, but this was actually given to me not too long ago as an excuse to not do the rest. I'm like, that's not how security works. But try to be understanding that people don't know how security works. Even though I'm not even a security expert, but I mean, I've just taught it a little bit. The basics, basics of application security, and so the fact that it's not public facing, so obviously we'll not even get into any of those statistics because nobody knows. Like, do you know what an airport runs, behind the scenes? Well, maybe we do now with what happened in Europe recently, but pretty sure most people didn't know before. So so they end up waiting too long before something bad happens, and then it's too late.
Talking about that, okay, so the legacy, it's bad because it's unsecure. Like, we have vulnerabilities, etc., etc. But what else is bad in legacy systems? A lot of banks still work on the COBOL or some other stuff that was written 50, 60 years ago, and it works. Why it should be changed?
Yeah, well, again, it depends on what you're doing with it and what is the nature of the incompatibility. I know for a fact that some technologies have really good compatibility where you can actually move to the latest one. COBOL being old itself as a language is not necessarily the problem because there are newer versions of COBOL being released. I don't know for sure that it's still true in 2025, but I'm pretty sure. I can look
But
it
it is
up later.
possible. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. It's
So
possible.
some things, as long as new versions are coming out, that's fine. I mean, many of the languages we use today have been written 20, 40 years ago. I mean, sure, I've worked with customers who still have like IBM RPG in the mix, right? So why upgrade? Well, if it's going over the network, you probably want it secured, right? So that's obviously a reason. You have performance, you have bugs. Bugs can corrupt your data. All kinds of things can happen, and also this idea that if it what's the saying? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So that is kind of like I don't know if this is the right word to call it a fallacy, but I mean it's incorrect because although your code doesn't change and your technology with which you built it doesn't change, the environment around it is evolving. So those, let's say, IBM RPG scripts that nobody cared about, suddenly they decided to write a wrapper around them so they can be exposed as APIs over the internet. So now the fact that certain things cannot be called with HTTPS, for example, becomes a problem, and other things. So yeah, as the environment around evolves, if you have left something for very long hoping to never change it again, you don't really know where the world is going, right? So, and of course, older technologies, vulnerable. Like, we didn't have databases. There was a time, of course, we didn't have these databases with all the vulnerabilities. There was a time we didn't have MD5 rainbow tables. That wasn't a thing. Computing was not nowhere near the state it was today. Like the processing power. Now you have LLMs that can even just analyze your stuff and find vulnerabilities. So things have evolved, and so if people leave things as they are and just use that as an excuse of, well, IBM gave us a promise that we'll never have to, all their stuff will be compatible forever, right? But the environment evolved. Now you want to wrap it in PHP and expose it to the web. That wasn't a thing back when you wrote it, but it is now, and you want to use it in a new way and you want to keep up with the times. So now you have this new problem. So it's probably always better to keep up, just in case. Especially, I mean, it's very valuable, and you don't want to miss opportunities that come along. And it's not that expensive to do it slowly over time. It's
Yeah,
mostly
that's
expensive
true.
when you're really late to the game, And now you're trying to move this thing and you realize that the dependency is also outdated, and now there's no way to run this in any environment because those you need like a physical machine for something. And so the how to say the doors or the paths you can take are now closed to you, but they were open back in the day.
About such migration, like really huge migration, do you have experience using some Gen AI tools or AI tools that can help to speed up a bit migration process?
I haven't really. I've had some colleagues using things to help speed things up, like local instances that would automate certain tasks. But overall, I found them not very useful because LLMs. It's like a very strange evolution to machine learning. Because machine learning, I remember back in the day, I was organizing the conference and I spoke to some person who was doing that, giving presentations on the topic, and said the hardest part about machine learning is to curate the data. Well, LLM is that, but without let's not curate. Let's just take whatever and throw it there and let the end user curate the end result. So it's kind of dangerous actually, because as I've experimented with this, it gives a lot of like bad results, like really bad. It's like I teach. The reason I teach is because I don't like how a lot of people do things, right? I'm like, oh, if only they knew that there's a better way. Well, the LLM is going to be like all of these bad practices combined, and it's just going to spit out things that are so bad. I mean, it's hard enough for a human to know, like, and even for a legacy, at least for the kind of work I do. Like, I sometimes need to source information from by reading the C code of the PHP source code, because someone in 2008 opened a ticket and somebody says, "Oh no, that's not a bug; it's an intended feature," and yet it's not documented anywhere. So it's like I'm not crazy. I opened the code. It's like, yes, I see. Yeah, this weird behavior is happening. Like, how would an LLM know that? you know
Yeah, that's
it
true.
might, but nobody's writing about these more niche things, right? So if nobody's writing about that, then where would it even source the information? I have to do the research by myself through experimentation most of the time. I can't even find information online. So um, again, my work is probably a bit more niche, so I don't know how that would apply to other people. Like if you're moving from, I don't know, PHP 8.2 to PHP 8.4, it's probably not a big jump, right? But at some point I was asking questions about some PHP 4 stuff, and somebody who's intimately familiar with the matter said, "Are you unironically running PHP 4 like on a server?" I'm like, "Yeah." Well, not myself personally, but I have someone stuck with it. So people are surprised to see just how old some of that code is. There's no documentation. You have to go and talk directly to people who were involved in that so they can give you a definitive answer, because the documentation for that is not even online. It's been taken down because the maintainers of the project have been sort of cleaning things up, and things that are too old, there's no point in keeping it there, right? It's like they're not officially supporting it. So documentation is disappearing, the stuff is disappearing, although I have created a small mirror, to try and salvage that. But again, some of that thing is just nobody took the time to write in the documentation and clearly explain it. So that information exists nowhere other than in the brains of people that I happen to know. So I have to seek them
Yeah,
out.
yeah. I've
If they're
seen.
still alive.
Yeah, that's true. I've seen one
Yeah.
time there was a really old project that was written in Fortran language, and so there was like several engineers, guys that older than 17 probably, who supported that project. So it was really interesting because they had some like special books with all the commands related to that language, and some probably runtime knowledges only. Like everything is documented and can be accessed only reading books. So that's really really interesting.
Yeah, there's that.
And
But also,
for people who,
sorry, go ahead.
yeah, for people who is not familiar with PHP, what is currently what is LTC version of PHP at the moment? Just to
The long-term support. Well, I mean, currently the latest version is 8.4. Now, typically, I believe things fall into long-term support, which is like the last version of each of the major versions. So if we were to, let's say, release version 9 in November instead of 8.5, then 8.4 would become the long-term support version. But even that is not.
Just trying to compare the version 4 and version almost 9.
Oh, so, version 4 died so
the
long
amount
ago.
of years between those two between those two versions. Yeah.
Probably 15 or more. So when I started
with PHP 3 in 2004. And I think 4 was after that.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you started with PHP 3 in 2004, I believe so. PHP, 4 would have been absolutely around, but I'm pretty sure PHP 5 was already starting. So I'll need to look it up, but I don't want to do it live here. But yeah, it's been a very long time. So when it came out of support, it dropped out of support. I don't know. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it was a while ago. So the people who haven't updated their code all this time had access to more than one generation of developers in that time span, probably.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I frequently work on code older than my oldest kid, so who's an adult, so.
Regarding this old code, do you think this is probably a solution to convince businesses do this refactoring periodically, but not once in 20 years? Because everybody wants quick results. Nobody wants to do everything in time. But let's not do that and come back in 15 years and see if it's still alive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you put it in numbers, every case is different, right? But when you put it in numbers, it's so obvious that it's not a question of is it worth it? We know it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it because the longer you wait, I've seen the kinds of disasters it's causing. There was a company, I won't name, I've done some work. It's been years since I've done the work. And the version that we were targeting was actually not even a supported version, but it was as a stepping stone to then, we try to do things in phases. But that phase is, they're still stuck in that first phase, and it's been years. And last time they tried it, it didn't work out too well on something much less risky, right? It didn't work out too well. It ended up, it ends up costing a lot of money, but it's also not just the effort, but how do you do the rollover, right? Because things back in the day were not written in a way where it's easy to just go granular. So they actually spent several years trying to de-risk it, basically trying to split things into smaller stuff, so that they could deploy things more progressively and roll it back. So yeah, the challenge becomes much bigger. It's like you kind of need to do everything at once. It's not just the upgrade, right? Now you have to worry about servers and you need new deployment pipelines. It's like then you need this, and you kind of pull on the thread and the whole thing unravels, and you realize that you have technical debt in every area, right? On top of that, all of that technical debt is, although it's not apparent to most people, but if you put it in numbers, if you're able to go and investigate and put things in numbers and get all the metrics, you would see very quickly that all of that technical debt is actually costing people a lot. So when you take, I don't know, 6 months or a year and a half, let's say, to release a feature, the time to market, you lose a lot of opportunities. I mean, your company could be dead before you can release that feature, right? So you're not keeping up, and so other companies are going to surpass you very quickly. Somebody can arrive and overnight completely take over your market because you're so slow, right? So, and people don't like to think about risks. They don't like to think about maintenance. They don't like to set like a small percentage of money aside to de-risk. I mean, people understand insurance, right? So all people are paying like home insurance, car insurance. This is the same thing. They just don't see it this way for some reason. It's like, well, nothing has happened, so why should I pay for it? And then when something happens, well, why should I pay for it now that it happened? you know.
That's a nice catch with insurance. I'll take it.
Okay, cool. If there's anything the audience will remember is that technical debt is like legacy maintenance is like insurance. There's your sound bites.
I think it should be on the cover.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Sure. That's for sure. Yeah, I remember at some project we even every sprint we created some user story that we named it as technical debt, and everyone was assigned to some subtasks to do some security checks, writing some extra tests that currently missed, or maybe unit tests and end tests, whatever. So we had we had such habit that it was really nice. So yeah.
Yeah,
And
because you built a
somehow we
culture
agreed
around.
to have it. Yeah.
Yeah, you built a culture around basically not leaving things to rot. It's like flossing, it's like everything else that's kind of boring, annoying, in some cases costly, but I mean, it's absolutely worth it. There's no situation that I've encountered where it wasn't worth it, right? The question is, when do you start addressing it, right? Do you start addressing it while you're still prototyping? Maybe not, but once you understand, let's say just even technical debt in general, like let's say you start coding something, you don't need to make it perfect and reusable, because if you do it prematurely, you'll probably do things that are, unnecessarily decoupled in an odd way. And then it's just hard to use, right? So you're solving problems you don't even know exist yet. But instead, I mean, it's perfectly fine to go fast, but you need to know when are you satisfied enough with what you've built that you're going to spend some time cleaning it up, right? It's like when you cook, right? Of course, you're going to have dishes out, you try not to take out too much, but right, at some point, you know when you're done and you know when you clean them. Otherwise, the next day you have no dishes to cook and eat.
Now I want to eat.
Now what? I'm sorry.
Now I want to eat.
Because you projected yourself into the kitchen and
Yeah, absolutely.
True. About dishes at kitchen, I'm usually using this especially with plates, using this as an example when I'm teaching my students. I'm trying to explain, for example, what is actually stack and queue. And I'm usually, stack is like a stack of plates. So it should be like taken from the top to the bottom.
From the top, yeah.
Yeah, and queue is opposite.
That's a nice analogy. I like it.
Yeah, it's
very physical, and because dishes are heavy, you can't just lift the whole thing and take from underneath.
Yeah, exactly.
That's clever. I like it.
Exactly.
I'm gonna use it.
and currently, I'm trying to find such examples also for business to push them to to spend more time, developers' time on writing tests, or maybe do some refactoring, or do some extra work that really necessary to to maintain project much easier. So yeah, trying to find some analogies from real life. A kitchen probably the best example. And there's
Yeah, because
really
everybody knows that.
yeah
Not,
true.
not
That's true.
everybody knows or wants to hear about cars.
Yeah.
Although I usually tailor it to whoever I talk to.
So we just go back a bit to mentoring and studying and so on. Just would like to ask you, Anna, do you have some, I don't know, some special stuff that you apply to your mentoring, or something that to give some like gamification of study or something like that? Some tools, extra tools, or anything?
I don't really believe in gamification, and that's just a personal preference.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really believe in gamification. If something is interesting enough, or some, I find that learning in itself is something intrinsic. Like either you want to learn or you don't want to learn. If you want to learn, it should be something where you can have small wins. So it doesn't have to
Yeah.
be like a proxy for a win. It can be an actual small win. You can see something working. And if you see it works, you apply something and then you compare to how it was before. And you're like, oh yeah, that's a good approach. That's a good way of structuring your code. And that test, yeah, indeed, we haven't seen that bug resurfacing again. So it's good to be able to move on and not have to worry about
Mm-hmm.
it again. Yeah, so these kinds of things are, I think if they're structured in a way where they're small enough,
Mm-hmm.
accessible enough, and people can apply them, um, I don't
Yeah.
really have a need for
Under
gamification.
gamification, I mean, it can be really something more obvious. For example, achievements. Like, for
Yeah,
example, you have a team with 5 juniors, and you can give some achievements. You write in like the cleanest code this week, or you I don't know,
yeah.
um, did
Mm,
code reviews,
Employee of the
or
month.
yeah,
almost.
I never really thought of it like that. It's not something that I think of, honestly.
Hmm.
I give credit where it's due. I give praise when it's
Hmm.
due, and I think that there might be some interesting approaches where I would, for example, I was coaching someone. That was a while ago. I was coaching someone back in 2007, I believe. And I mean, although so I built something, but she helped a lot, right? And so I let her do the presentation, and she was pretty excited to talk about it and see what we've accomplished together, right? So sort of, giving people credit and showcasing the results. Like even more recently, when I was managing a team, we would have these twice every 2 weeks. We would meet, and somebody would have the opportunity to present something they were working on, some interesting new things they discovered. They would
Hmm.
present it, and some people enjoyed it. So if you create the right environment, it's something that's intrinsic, but you kind of have to let people express it. And
Hmm.
if they can use it first of all for themselves, so they can have a result, and then you can show others like, oh look, we've this person has done something that's pretty good. So it doesn't have to be structured. You don't have to worry about planning like a a whole like a achievement list. It's just much more simple and ad hoc,
Yeah,
and just,
true.
yeah, I
That's
give
true.
everyone the opportunity to show something.
Oh yeah, that's really important. I remember when I first time did demo of my work that I accomplished as a junior. Uh, it was really exciting, and I was like a bit like nervous because stakeholders are watching, and I have to present something. It like 5 minutes, but for juniors it means a lot. So for sure. So let's move on to probably like the final questions. And of course, we couldn't miss to ask you about conference and networking. Why do you think is knowledge sharing is important?
Why is knowledge sharing important? I never really thought about it because it was obvious. Well, okay. Let's talk specifically about conferences and events. So you can learn things from books, absolutely, and I would encourage people to read books. Actually, some of the most interesting stuff I learned was from books written in the books and papers written in the 70s. Like a video I did on YouTube about the single responsibility principle. I've actually read a lot of sources, including a paper from the 70s. And so that was absolutely applicable. The theory, at least, is applicable. So that was interesting. And other places, there are websites like Pluralsight where people can watch courses. It's pretty well structured, high value production there. So I would totally recommend it. Not biased at all, since I have a course there, of course. But I haven't done that in a while. But yeah, pretty good website. And the conference fill the rest. Well, mentorship, of course, but for me, every time I went to a conference, there should be expectation of learning just at least one thing. If you can learn one thing at the conference, a new perspective, a new way of thinking about something, that's already worth it, at least in my opinion. And even sometimes just talk to one person about something very interesting, for me, it's already worth it. And every time I went to a conference, there was one talk always that was memorable, and in some cases, it would like double my productivity or allow me to move in a way that made everything just so much more productive and higher quality, that it was absolutely worth it. So and those things are coming from people who are in the field, talking about things that are rather current. And I don't mean like the latest technology. It's more like I've more like somebody says, I applied it in the last 2 years and it worked really well. So you know that with the current landscape in technology, you know that this is viable. Because maybe something that was viable 20 years ago, today it's either not viable or there are way better tools, right? So it's maybe not as relevant. But at conferences, I tend to find things that are not necessarily revolutionary. Like I don't even necessarily go to the new stuff. I don't care about new frameworks, but I would just go and see something theoretical, something, and maybe even something that I've heard before, or even something that I myself speak about, because I want to see another perspective. And actually comparing those perspectives is very interesting, because you don't often find it, especially for someone who's worked on their own, like myself, for a while. Throughout most of my career, I've worked by myself, but I've gotten all that information from conferences. And the cool thing about conferences is that these speakers that you may look up to and think they're like heroes and you want to take selfies with them, they're actually normal people. And if you just go talk to them about anything, they will absolutely talk to you about anything. You want to ask them whether going to a beach in Spain is fun, and they're gonna talk to you about it. Looking for typically, or at least actually, let me step back, because I don't know if everybody's there for the same reasons as I am, but I like to have in-depth, nerdy conversation, not even necessarily about tech sometimes. So. Like there was a conference where I spent 3 hours, I think, in a row talking to one person, because we wanted to talk about, like airplanes, at the time, they were talking about F-16s for Ukraine. So we were like just talking about the value of these things for 3 hours.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, we totally missed the closing ceremony and the reception of some little stones with like our names carved in them. We missed everything. We had so much fun. Yeah.
The most
You
important
Ukraine.
networking. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you think the tech community helping during this war?
I wouldn't say I wouldn't know how the tech community was as a whole. I like to think that people are as a whole supportive. I personally ran a fundraiser and obviously got money from the tech community because those are the people who follow me. And yeah,
Thanks
we
for
were
that.
able to
Yeah.
collect quite a lot. So people were very supportive. Some people were donating crazy amounts of money, like in the thousands. It's just insane. Not saying that somebody who donates $10 is not good, but some people were so like able to donate so much, and it was like sometimes I cried, honestly. Sometimes I just realized how much I can get for that. Like, oh, we could get like helmets, and we can get this and that. Because at first, like when we were collecting funds, like people needed everything, and it was hard to find, right? Like helmets, they were sold out
Yeah,
throughout
true.
most of the world. We found some in Canada, but nothing in Europe. The used cars were running dry at some point. Also, it's like you couldn't buy a used van or something or pickup truck. So, at some point, we had to bring one from Sweden
Yeah,
and had
yeah,
like a network of volunteers drive it. It's like somebody drives it a bit south, leaves it somewhere, and then the next leg, like from I don't know, Germany to like Poland, and then from Poland someone else, and then once on location, someone else will get it to the front. So it was an interesting
Yeah.
experience. I mean, it's still ongoing. It's just that I think people got a bit. I don't want to say it like in a negative way, but I feel like people got a bit jaded. It's not it's not as new, so but I do think that the initial contributions were extremely valuable at the time when governments weren't actually doing much. It's like everybody was waiting to see what happens. And we're not going to wait a few weeks because then it might be too late. So we just organized since the first few days we started organizing. So
And we really appreciate it. So
yeah.
yeah,
Thanks for your
that's
help.
for sure.
yeah, I even got like a. I, I took it out because I thought you might ask. I even get this like
Oh wow.
sort of certificate. Yeah, well, yeah, like also from
That's
another
cool. Because
from
yeah,
another
I
because
have
we've supported too. So like the
okay.
commanders, they signed that the commanders of the units we were supporting, they signed. It's the volunteer units. So some people might not know, but this you guys know, of course. But there's this law, right, where you can organize a volunteer team, and you
Yeah,
can even
true.
have promotions and stuff. So yeah, so these people are contributing, and they are in contact with the army also, so they have information, they pass it along, so it's extremely helpful. So right now we're supporting a team. It's a air recon, so they fly drones and they collect information, and they pass it along, and things are happening. So
Yeah, true. And currently in Ukraine, we have, I would say, really a lot of companies that focused on such part of that should be explored, related, especially related to possibility to recognize some objects and so on to train correctly. So yeah,
right, the sort of artificial intelligence, so they could
yeah,
fly
yeah,
drones more
because
effectively.
it's really useful when you're able to have some cameras and recognize something really quickly.
Yeah,
So yeah,
especially with the
that's
jammers, right? Because if it
yeah.
can be autonomous despite a jammer, that's very helpful. It will just continue flying, and once it
Yeah.
gets out of the jammer's range, it will relay on the all the information it collected. So very useful for that as well. Yeah.
And about conferences, every conference organized by Fwdays, we have a speaker who has some also like fundraise for like his friends who is in army or some yeah some team. So yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And about just going back a bit to conferences, some like lighting advice from you. One short piece of advice from you for someone who would like to become a speaker but still a bit shy, or I don't know, just trying to be but still, I don't know, has some doubts and not able to start. What would you give kind of advice for such person?
I would say get a mentor. Reach out to somebody you know that you've met at a conference and ask them. I mean, reach out to me. Hell, I mean, I'm on social media. Reach out to me and ask directly, and I'll find. If I cannot do it myself, I'll connect you with somebody who might be interested in helping, because the first time you prepare a conference presentation, it's hard because you don't know how to tailor the message, how to structure the content. Is it interesting to talk about this or that thing? Because some people, they just know that they want to talk, they don't know about what. And they don't realize that the experience they have, even if limited in some areas, are still valuable, because like specific case studies or what they learn is actually maybe different from how somebody else done it. So people don't even realize how much they know that is valuable to others, because it's hard to gauge, right? But once you're in the sphere for a while, you realize, well, all of it goes. It's all useful. so so help people find the topic, polish the presentation. And as I've mentioned in one of my blog posts, actually all the presentations that I have on Speaker Deck, uh, of course minus the logo and stuff, like you can use them, right? The content in those presentations are just available. So if you want to give the exact same presentation, I'll back you up. I'll say that, yes, I've authorized this person to present. So just grab one of mine, and some of them might still be relevant today, and just go ahead and give them. Just use my content.
Yeah, nice. That's really nice advice. Or at least you can use it as a source of examples or inspiration. Not example, inspiration. So you can see the structure and do something about your stack or your technology or anything that you'd like to, but just keep the structure.
Yeah, and many of them are on YouTube, so you can also see how it's presented. Don't worry about the presentation ability, because no matter what you think of me as a presenter, I look at some people and say, they are so good, I will never be like them. And that's okay. So even I look up to some people, and I know I will never reach that level. I'm not that eloquent. I don't have such a good memory, so I always refer to my slides, and it's a bit robotic at times, but I mean, people still find value in it. So I'm never super confident about what I'm presenting. I'm only confident that I know what I want to say. That's the only thing I'm confident about, and that carries me through it.
Yeah, true. The most important.
And I always
idea.
stress. Yeah. Actually, it's funny because the conference I did at Fwdays was my 100th presentation.
Wow.
And I was still stressed. I was still stressed. If you think it goes away, like most speakers I know are introverts, and some of us have stage fright. As a kid, I had such incredible stage fright. I was lucky, and I just learned by doing things. So I got over it, but I'm still always nervous every single time. It's been over 100 times now.
For me, the same, always. Even if I have like online training workshop, I still a bit nervous at the beginning, and then I can relax and do my job. But yeah, I don't know, maybe same here. So
yeah. And somebody told me something that really helped me make peace with that, because I'm like, why am I still stressing all the time? I'm sure these people aren't stressing anymore. Somebody said, no, we're all still stressing, but also it just means that you really want to do a good job. Otherwise, you wouldn't. If you don't care, you don't stress. So kind of, it's very encouraging. It's like, oh, it means I'm trying to do a good job. I'm worried about disappointing people, so it's a good thing, I guess.
yeah, I like the way you say that. So yeah, that's probably that's the truth.
No credit to me. I forgot who said that to me, but it doesn't even come from me. See, I learn from other people all the time.
Yeah, of course.
I think it's a great wrap up.
Yeah, true.
To learn from people all the time.
I didn't anticipate to end it like that, but I'll take it. I mean, as I didn't plan for it to be such a nice wrap up. Now I'm making it worse.
Oh yeah. Thank you, Anna, one more time for your time and for being with us. It was really great to speak to you, listen about your experience about legacy code, everything that we described about mentoring, of course, and really appreciate your advices and your thoughts, because I saw maybe like really experienced people and speakers are not so stressed, but yeah, now it's become more clear. So I'm relaxed and understand the reason. Thank you.
Thank you all for watching. Anna, thank you. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, it was wonderful conversation.
And everybody who watched, please like, subscribe,
and left a comment.
And leave a comment. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks all. Bye.